What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be going over 7 reasons to avoid the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. So let's get started. Now, just to clarify, I actually really like this phone quite a bit. However, the things I'll be going over in this video are certainly things that you will want to be aware of prior to getting the phone, just so that there are no surprises if you do end up getting it. Now, the first reason why you might want to avoid this device is if you're looking for a phone that has a 3.5mm headphone jack, because there is none with the A33 5G. Now, the predecessor to this phone, the A32 5G, did have a headphone jack, but this phone and also the A53 5G as well don't have headphone jacks, so it looks like this is the direction that Samsung is moving to with pretty much all their A-series phones. And that's certainly a little bit frustrating, but it is a trend that we're seeing more and more. Of course, way back with the iPhone 7, Apple was the first smartphone manufacturer to get rid of the headphone jack, and then slowly different Android manufacturers started doing it with their higher end phones, and then now we're starting to see with devices like the A33 5G that even if you're getting a lower end phone, that's not always a guarantee that you are going to be getting the headphone jack. So if you do want to use wired headphones with this device, thankfully, you can at least get an adapter to plug into the USB-C port, but otherwise, you will not be able to use your traditional wired headphones with the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. Now, the second thing this phone does not have, which you might want, is wireless charging. Now, wireless charging is typically found with more premium phones. However, I certainly have seen quite a few mid-range devices like this one that do have wireless charging. Now, wireless charging is a feature that typically is only found with more premium devices. For example, Samsung's S22 series has wireless charging. All the various iPhones also have wireless charging as well, but all those phones are a bit more premium than the A33 5G, at least when it comes to their target market. So there is no wireless charging with this device, and also there's no wireless charging with any phone in Samsung's A series. So if you currently have wireless charging with your device, and that's a feature that you do find yourself using quite often, then just know that you're not getting that here with the A33 5G. The third reason to potentially avoid getting the A33 5G is due to the build materials. Now, this device is made completely out of plastic, besides the display, which is glass. And thankfully, the glass that is used on the display is Corning Gorilla Glass 5, so it actually is very durable, but the rest of the phone is made out of plastic. Now, Samsung did do a really nice job, though, with the build in general of it, as this phone does feel decently premium, despite it being kind of a lower-end mid-range phone. And even the sides of the device actually kind of look like they are made out of metal, however, it is plastic. I do like, at least, though, that we do have this nice matte finish here. And then on the back of the phone, this is also plastic, of course, but I do feel like it does look nice, and I also appreciate that it doesn't really pick up any fingerprints. So in general, I personally don't mind the materials that the A33 5G is made out of. However, if your current phone features more premium materials, such as a lot of metal and glass around the back and sides of the phone, then you certainly will notice a bit of a difference with this device. Now, moving on, another reason that you might not want to get this phone is if you find yourself using Samsung DeX. Now, if you don't know what Samsung DeX is, then I suppose you won't be missing out on it by not having it here with the A33 5G. But all of Samsung's more premium devices, like the Galaxy Note series and S series, feature DeX. And essentially what DeX does is that you can plug your device into a larger display and essentially use a desktop mode on that larger display. So essentially you're using your phone almost as like a desktop computer, which is actually a pretty cool feature, but none of the A-series phones from Samsung have that. Now, if you really want a Samsung smartphone with DeX included, but you don't want to spend too much money, then you might want to consider going for a used Galaxy Note 9 or Galaxy Note 8, and even the Galaxy S9 and Galaxy S8 also have DeX included. So you might not want to buy an older smartphone like that, but if you don't want to spend too much money but you still want DeX, then at least you can go for those devices without spending too much money and still getting that feature. The fifth reason to potentially avoid the Galaxy A33 5G is due to the processor being relatively slow. Now, from my experience of using the device, I'm actually pretty happy with the processor that we do have here. However, it is possible that the current phone you have now could be faster than this device. Especially if you are upgrading from an S-series phone that's a couple years old, you'll definitely want to double check to see if the A33 5G is actually going to be a performance upgrade for you. Now, thankfully, there is a pretty cool tool out there to get a good idea of the performance of your current device to then compare it to this device, and that's called Geekbench 5. So essentially, this is a benchmarking test app, and and I got these scores from running the test. So a single core score of 694 and a multi-core score of 1865. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of whether or not the A33 5G actually is going to be a performance upgrade from your current phone. Because it certainly would be disappointing if you were to upgrade to this device only to find it being actually slower than what you currently have. And for my final reason to potentially avoid getting the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, that has to be the water drop notch up top here. Now come on Samsung, we're now in 2022. At this point, can we just forget about the notch? Especially when other devices like the A53 5G have a hole punch for the front camera. So I certainly wish that we had a hole punch instead of the notch on this device. Unfortunately, we do have the notch, so it's not necessarily that big of a deal. But at the same time, I would have preferred that they would have just given us a hole punch for the front-facing camera instead. And another thing to keep in mind as well is that the bottom bezel is slightly thicker than the other bezels on the device. Again, that doesn't really matter to me too much, but at the same time, if you want a phone that has maybe the most modern design and form factor out there, then you aren't quite getting that here with the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. So those are all potential reasons why you might not want to get this phone. But on the other hand, this phone still does have quite a bit to offer. For example, this display that we're getting is really good looking. It is a Super AMOLED display at 6.4 inches. It actually features a 90 Hz refresh rate, so a really smooth experience when getting around the phone here. So that's another nice premium touch, and that's especially a big deal considering that the Galaxy A33 5G is actually one of the lower end phones in Samsung's A series. So they really have brought quite a bit to the table here with the latest generation of this particular part of the A series lineup. Now the display is 1080p as well, so super crisp and clear. We have a PPI of 411, a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor. We also, despite having the notch in the thicker bottom bezel, still have a pretty good screen to body ratio at 83.7%. So that's great as well. Another good thing about this phone too is that we are getting a lot of internal storage. So it features 128 gigabytes of internal storage or 256 based on which version of the phone you end up getting. So that's quite a bit. And I also like that we're getting so many different cameras with this phone as well. So there's a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images at up to 123 degrees. We have a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera and a 5 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And then the front camera is 13 megapixels. So I know the main purpose of this video is to go over the top 7 reasons to not get this phone, but there are still a lot of reasons to get it, of course, so certainly keep that in mind. But I hope you enjoyed this video about the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. If you liked it, then definitely hit the thumbs up button and sub to the channel. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.